What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is me, Truck, again, coming to you make a story about Sneaky Pete, but this is Sneaky Pete Jr. Jr. is much bigger than Sneaky Pete Sr. Sneaky Pete Sr. was a Beretta 25A in 25 caliber, and for some reason, this is probably around 1992. I purchased this gun. I had the paperwork on it. I just didn't feel like looking for it in my book, my records. But the reason why I upgraded this gun is because, I don't know if you guys knew, but in 1991, Camden was rated the most dangerous city in America per 100,000, meaning we had more homicides, we had more robberies, more assaults, more everything. Crime was just higher than any other city in the country. The city was nicknamed Baby Beirut. For those of you that are acquainted with history, American history, you remember that Beirut had a secular war or a religious war between Muslims and Christians, and it was really bad. Even Marines, we sent, I think, 489 U.S. Marines were killed in the barracks, and so Camden at night was literally, you could hear the gunshots at one point all night. You could hear the streets fill. It was kind of exciting. I ain't gonna lie, it was kind of exciting. Me and one of my buddies from back in the day, we used to go out and hang out on a place called on Hatton Avenue, right next to the alleyway. As a matter of fact, the drug set was called the Alleyway, and then also there was a Chinese store right there. So he lived in the apartment building right next to it. So we used to grab chairs and we come out front and we sit right next to the stairs, and we would just watch this bizarre drug bazaar. I mean, it had to be maybe 30 or 40 guys out there selling drugs, and people will come in from the suburbs, and the street would be packed with cars. It looked like somebody was coming from a concert or something. There's so many people, man, and all the young ladies were outside, and I was a young man, so it was a very exciting time, but it was also a dangerous time because just about everybody had a gun. So I would sit out front, and at this time I upgraded to Sneaky Pete Jr. Because people were there. The types of guns they were carrying started to become Glocks. They became Sig Sauer. So they were hitting. They were carrying heavier firepower. Even though my 25 had, it was an 8+1 shot, I just didn't feel as though comfortable carrying that because the amount of people that were carrying guns at the time, especially if I was going to go hang out. Now, Sneaky Pete used to go with me all the time until things got really bad. And Sneaky Pete was like really a gun that I kept in my glove compartment for after I got off of work. So if I went and got something to eat, I went to Blockbuster or West Coast Videos, and I went to go, do something like that before I went home on a hot, crazy night. I had something for protection, but Sneaky Pete Jr. was something that I carried, or heavier calibers is what I carried if I knew I was going to be hanging out in a bad area. You know what I'm saying? That is definitely a gun I carry. This is the gun that I carry in a bad area. As you can see from this picture, you can see the screw on it is like kind of rusted out. It's because my body sweat. The sweat from my body. I think I just have a high acidic body sweat count or whatever. And the same thing with Sneaky Pete, because by the time I retired Sneaky Pete's aluminum frame by the back strap was actually pitted. I did have a picture of that, but I think it's on one of my old computers. But it was pitted, so I didn't feel safe. The gun wasn't fully functional. It was fully functional, but I didn't know if it's going to affect its function in case I had to use it. So I upgraded to this gun. This gun used to sit out with me when I was out there, and I'm telling you, man, Haddon Avenue, it was Wildwood and Park Avenue. That area was off the chain, man. And I remember how the guys used to run up and down, and the stick-up boys would come around, and then the young boys would be running. And me and my boy, we used to just sit there because I had my 380, and he had his too. So if somebody did, yeah, matter of fact, he had a Lorson, no, not a Lorson, a Jennings a 380. You remember that name? That cheap gun? He had a Jennings 380 that he had brought up with him from Georgia because he had a lot of family in Georgia. So they said, "Oh, you need a gun, son?" Oh, so they just gave him one. So he had that, and we would sit out front and we would, watch the whole circus, the whole show. Lots of loud music, lots of nice, good music. People walking up the street all day long, all night long. We stay out there till 2, 3 in the morning, which we were young, but it wasn't the smartest thing to do because anything could have broke out at any time. And this particular gun, I did have to pull it out on several people, unfortunately, due to them just doing some crazy stuff or trying to jump me or try to rob me or stuff like that. One guy got in a fight with a guy at a bar. It was one of my boys, the One Punch Wonder. His nickname was One Punch Wonder, and he was. It was his birthday, so his mom was a bar maid or bartender at this bar off of Broadway on Ferry Avenue. The bar's name was Bob's, and basically, it was a guy sitting next to him was jealous of him because he was with his ex girl, and the dude did something crazy, man. He grabbed my boy's behind, and so my boy, he's One Punch Wonder, so they were kind of close. He really couldn't square off and hit him. So I looked up. I was playing pool, and I basically see my boy dump him on the ground, and then they tussling, tossing, and turning, and so I walked over there. I made my way over. So when the guy they were tossing and turning, I grabbed the guy, bouncer style, grabbed him by his waist, by his belt, on his belt, and I pulled him back. What you do is you grab him by the waist, you turn, and you just pull like you're pulling a cart or you're trying to pull somebody's cart. You just pull, and because you have them at the center of their mass, they cannot do anything to stop you from pulling them. That's a bouncer special. So you pull, you pull. So what I did was I slingshotted him out the front door. It was a hot summer night, so the door was open. So I slingshotted him out the door. Boom! He hits the breezeway wall, and he falls and stumbles. And I start walking after him. When he saw me walking after him, he basically, start walking out front, and then he wanted to fight. He had a little too much to drink. And that's what happens when you're a bouncer. I wasn't a bouncer of that bar. I was just trying to break up my boy's birthday party. And plus, he was going away to the Navy the next day. So I was just trying to, make sure everything went well. So basically, he wanted to fight. And he, he did try to fight me. But that did not work out well. And I was young and dumb. Man, I tell you. This guy, a hammer fisting, he rolled backwards on the sidewalk. He rolled over the car into the street. And he got up, and when I started walking over towards him, I wasn't going to keep hitting him. I don't believe in, once you defeat somebody, I don't believe in stomping them and trying to kill them. I ain't trying to kill them, I'm just trying to stop the attack. That's always been my philosophy because I know from the past when I just slapped some dude in the ear one time, I broke his eardrum and his ear started bleeding. So especially back then, I did not believe in pressing a fight because of my size. I didn't want to go to court. The judge look at me, they look at them, and then be like, "Oh, you going to jail forever?" You know what I'm saying? No, I'm not a bully. So what happened was the dude got up and he started running and down the street, but my gun slipped down my side of my pants, man. That's embarrassing stuff. So the gun hit the ground, boom, it's a whole big crowd outside, looking and they looking at me and they looking down at the gun. I'm like, oh, here we go. So I did something stupid, man. I picked up the gun and, I shot off in the air, which I should have never did. I was a young man. And basically everybody went home. I was like, party over, bang. Everybody went home. It was like, what I was told was about 2 carloads full of cops that came after me. Fortunately, I never got in trouble for that, thank God. For shooting up in there. Fighting is just fighting. It was a bar fight. I wouldn't have did no time. They gave us fines, $500 a piece, and I just made payments or payment plans back then. But yeah, that's what happened. That was a long time ago. I got into a few scuffles like that back in the day, but like I said, I never really try to humiliate anyone to the point where they wanted to do some retaliation. I always tell people retaliation is worse than the original act, and you never, especially if you're a big guy out there, you never want to humiliate somebody because what happened is the sting of you, one, being big, two, you humiliating them will actually cause them to want to hurt you bad. And that retaliation stuff I seen that go down, and that can last for months. I mean, you can find somebody that gets in a fight, beats somebody up really bad, and then the next thing you know, somebody is actually literally teaming up with a crew of people with guns and knives and everything like that, and they're basically attacking you. So, and then it never stops because then you team up with somebody new and your crew and everything, and it continues to go. So, again, those were my before Christ days. Those were my young and dumb days, and I was out there tripping. So, don't be like me back then, because you will get locked up, especially if you live in a city. They got those things called shot callers, whereas they know where you shoot a gun. They know what the difference between a fireworks and an actual gun when you shoot up in the air, and they know where you are. They will actually be able to triangulate your position. So, with that being said, God bless you. I will talk to you guys later. Peace. And also, Jesus coming soon. Peace.